Hi everyone, this is Satyajit. In our last videos, we discussed about the status checks, okay, and how to check the status checks, and also we discuss about the AMI and snapshot, how to take the AMI, how to take the snapshot, and how AMI can be copied from one region to another region, from one account to another account, and what is the benefit of AMI. Okay, so that we discussed. Now let's say in the customer environment, generally in the customer environment, all the server, like all the application server are in private subnet. Okay, so now if the customer, if you see my screen here, these two server are public subnet because they have public IP. And I already told you, right, if a server is in public subnet means we called as a server is a public server, it means it should be in a public subnet. If you go to the networking, it should be in public subnet, and it must have a public IP. Then only we can call that instance as a public instance. Now, both the instance 1 and instance 2 are public instance. Okay, and it should be, it is in public subnet and it has in a public IP. Okay, now if I hit this public IP, I mean instance 2. Okay, if I hit, it will say this is server 2. Okay, and if I click on instance 1 and copy the public IP address, and if I type it here, it will come as this is server 1, this is server 2 and server 1. Now this is application is working fine, but generally in the customer environment, right, in the customer environment, we don't put our applications in the public subnet, right? Application instance should be always in the private subnet. If we keep it in the private subnet, like this is the private IP, if I copy this private IP and hit it in browser, it is not going to work because this is a private property or some private IP. You cannot use it on the browser. So to do that, okay, we require one option. So we know, like, we require a public IP. Okay, that should be in public subnet, and it required a public IP. That is one way. If we specify the public IP also, but if server is in private subnet, then also it is not going to work in the browser because both the conditions should be satisfied. It means instance should be in public subnet and it must have a public IP. Then only we can access it via browser. Let's say the conditions we didn't meet. Now in this diagram, in this instance, let's assume it doesn't have any public IP and it doesn't any private subnet. It is in public subnet and it has public IP. But just assume that instance, some application is running, but here there is no public IP and there is no public subnet. It's a private subnet. Means if you hit it in the browser, it is not going to work. Then how you will access the application? Because your instance are privately accessible and your application is running, but you customer want to expose it, customer want to access it. So how you are going to use it? So on that cases, load balancer came into picture. Okay, load balancer, if you see the diagram, this instance 1 and instance 2 are private EC2 instance. Let's assume these are a private. Here some of your applications running, like from here it is running, this is my server 2 and this is my server 1. Let's assume here server 1 is running, this is server 1, and here server 2, and both are private. If I hit the private IP in the browser, it is not working because it is privately accessible. Now how to, the requirement is how I will going to access that. So there must be a call concept load balancer. Okay, so that load balancer, in the load balancer we need to attach both the EC2 instance, and customer or any user has to hit the load balancer name. Load balancer having some DNS name. If you hit that DNS name, then only it is going to, then it will send the load, send the traffic. It means when the customer gives some data or customers try to access load balancer send the data to the instance. So you may ask, like, if two instances there in behind, to whom you will send the data? So this load balancer is a tricky device. So what it will do, it will do the data, it will send the data as a round robin fashion. It means 1 2, it will send the traffic to first here, then second, then here, then here. And load, if this, okay, why we are using load balancer? Another question is, let's say only single instance application is running. Let's say assume this application is running fine. I am good. Let's say the server terminated, the server deleted, then application also stopped. So this is single point of failure, customer impacted, right? But in case of load balancer, if this server goes down, other server is there, it will serve the traffic. So by that meantime, any administrator or an engineer can check in, okay, why the issue happened, then you will resolve that issue. So that by that meantime, some temporary is there, like if two is there, as load balancers send equal amount of traffic, load balancer send equal amount of traffic to the instance, attached instances, and load balancer also detect which one is healthy and which one is unhealthy. Okay, and load balancer always send the traffic to the healthy instance. It means both instances behind, if both are healthy, we'll discuss how it will say healthy. If both are healthy, then load balance will send the traffic to that instance. If someone is unhealthy, it will not send the traffic, and it will send traffic to the healthy instance. And load balancer detects also which one is healthy and which one is not healthy. So now the example I said, if it is not going to work, it is, if it is stopped means it is not going to work. But in these situations, it is going to work because customers are accessing load balancer, not this IP public, as this is private. Customers are accessing this one. If this is goes down, one instance is already there, so it will serve the traffic. So load balancer is very, very important. Okay, so how to create a load balancer, we'll see now. We'll see. Okay, now if you go to the instance, you can just go to load is, I mean in EC2, so you can go to the load balancer. So load balancer again multiple types, like classic load balancer, applications load balancer, network load balancer, and gateway load balancer. Okay, so we'll just create a basic one for your understanding. Create a load balancer, and here classic. So classic load balancer, after some time they will deprecate it, so it is a previous generations, but now it is working. So you can just click on the classic load balancer and create it. Okay, give some name. So I'm giving test CLB something. Okay, so there are two types of load balancer. One is as per the accessing part, one is internet facing and another is internal. Internal means it is again private. It means it can be accessible within your VPC, within the VPC. Okay, and internet facing means it should be available on internet. So now we are interested in internet, so internet facing. Okay, network mapping. Now which VPC? So I have VPC A. So in which subnet? So 1 minute. VPC A in AP South 1A. Okay, so in the AP South 1A, we have a public subnet. Okay, so generally we need to create subnet in multiple availability zone, but I am just creating public A. And then after that, so if you have two subnets, so what mistake I did, now if you go to this, let me go to the EC2. Yeah, so what mistake I did, it's not a mistake, like both my instance 1 and instance 2 in same availability zone, AP South 1 and AP South 1A. So it must be in different availability zones. So that what will happen, it will be for high availability. High availability means if one of your availability zone goes down, other availability zone is there to peak the load or to send the traffic. Okay, as we already did it single, it's okay, we can continue. We can create a load balancer, but whenever you are going to demo, create subnet in two different and instance in different availability zone. So now create a load balancer. We're going to create a classic load balancer, create it, and we'll just name as test CLB. It's internet facing VPC A, and we need to select the subnet, and here public subnet. Okay, and security group. So you can, because load balancer also have security group, like instance having firewall, who wants to access to you, like this way instance security, load balancer also have some security group. Okay, so default security group, let's say take default one. Now listeners. Okay, now load balancer is there, your instance is there. So customer will access to the load balancer. Then load balancer will send a traffic to the instance. Means load balancer act as a medium or mediator, right? So there load balancer works some port and protocol. Instance also works some port and protocol. So we need to add, that is called listeners. So now load balancer working on HTTP 80 and instance also HTTP 80. So there are different type of protocol, different types of port. Why instance port 80? Because Apache work on 80 port. Okay. So here it should be 80. If you want 88, any port number you can give it. But this must be correct because Apache working on HTTP and port is 80. So that's fine. Now this is very important. Health check. Okay. So we know like we have a ping path index.html because on that index.html our page is there, random page, right? What is the server 1 and server 2? Everything is there. So everything is targeting to this index.html, and main important part is this one, health check. Okay. So there is something called interval, there is something called unhealthy threshold and healthy threshold. Okay. What do you mean by unhealthy and what do you mean by healthy? Like as I said, load balancer detect which one is healthy and which one is unhealthy. Okay. So now there is a instance, right? Load balancer, every interval, every 5 seconds, it will ask to the instance, are you healthy? Okay, it will send a response, are you healthy? If load balancer port is, so healthy means what? Like if that instance is 80, like let's say now I am in EC2 instance. So here if I do one command net start -tunlp grep 80 port. So now 80 port is listen, it means it is healthy. If I do 80 port stop, it means it is unhealthy. Okay. So in that way, it's not so healthy. It's not like instance should be stopped. No, your application should be stopped. If your application is not working, it will detect that it is unhealthy. If your application is listening on this port 80 port, it means it is healthy. So now understand this term. What is healthy threshold? Okay. So load balancer interval is 5 seconds. So every 5 second interval, it will check the instance that port is listening or not. Okay, that is the behavior of load balancer. So now first time it check, it is unhealthy. So load balancer directly not declare it is unhealthy. Load balancer has some proof. So here it is 10. Let's say I'm given as 3. So what will happen? Load balancer check first. Okay, 5 seconds it check. Okay, it's healthy. Then after 5 seconds again ask one response, unhealthy. After 5 seconds again check one, it is unhealthy. Then load balancer detect, okay, it is unhealthy and it will not send the traffic. So that's the reason I made it a number 3. If number is 10, so it will go for 10 times it will check. That is one unhealthy, healthy threshold. Unhealthy threshold. So load balancer do both the work at a time. So for unhealthy also, it will check, okay, first traffic every 5 second duration, is it unhealthy? Yes, it is unhealthy. Again, it is unhealthy. Yes, it is unhealthy. Then it will decide, okay, this is unhealthy. Healthy, after that, let's say port is on, then load balance will decide, okay, is the port is on or it is healthy? Yes, it is healthy. Then it will not make declaration it is healthy. So depends upon how many count we are giving. Okay, so this is all about like interval, unhealthy and healthy. Okay, so I just made it. Now you need to add the instance. So add instance. So which instance? Now this both instance I added and confirm. Instance I have added and all are default same and create a load balancer. Okay, so here you need to understand the load balancer should be created in the public subnet, because load balancer must have to be created public subnet because it is a internet facing. Once this load balancer is created and load balancer listeners we need to add like which application is running. So something called load balancer port, load balancer protocol, instance port and instance protocol. Then we need to assign a security group to the load balancer. Okay, and then finally the health check and the health check port, everything. Okay, that we added. Now my load balancer is created. Now verify. If you click on this load balancer, go to the instance. Now my system instance is out of service. Okay, out of service means it is unhealthy. Now verify. It is health check. So health check is checking 80 port, 2 seconds, 5 seconds, 2 3. So wait for some more time. Oh, it is saying status is unknown. Okay, wait for some more time. It will come as in service. If you see now, instance is in service. It means my load balancer is working fine. It should come as in service. So now hit this DNS name. So load balancer, if you come down, okay, if you come to the descriptions, this is the DNS name. Okay, now if you see the diagram here, so I am a user, I am adding the load balancer DNS name. If you hit it in the browser, enter it, it will give the response. 1 minute. Okay, now it is not working. Okay, can anyone answer why it is not working? Okay, it is mainly to the firewall. It means your load balancer is listening on 80 port, but load balancer has some security group. We can just verify. Load balancer has a security group. This one. So does in security group 80 port is open to the world or not? Open to the world means 0.0.0.0. It's done on our inbound rules. If you see all traffic allow for port, there is no open to the world. So what I will do, I will just add HTTP and 80 port open to the world. 0.0 to 0.0. Okay, save rules. Once that is done, it will suddenly start working. Okay, we'll just verify. See now. So this is now here it is sending traffic to this is server one. Next we'll verify again. You will sign again. We'll refresh. See, this is server two. Again, if I refresh server one, so server two. So now we understand it is sending traffic to the round robin fashion. It means first to one server, next to another server. Like this way, it is going to work. Now how you will say it is going on in out of service? See what I will do here. This is 10.00.46 hours. So what I will do, service httpd stop. Once I do stop means, okay, sudo stop something. I stopped the application server. If I do means my applications, I stopped it. If I use the same command, okay, this net start hyphen tunlp grep 80 port, it will say like port is not running. Okay, verify this one. Now 80 port is not running. Here listen, not running. Now see, load balance will detect that as a unhealthy. Okay, we'll see now details page and instance. Now see out of service. Why? Because the unhealthy status check is 3 seconds and only it will take 5 seconds, 5 second, one. So total 15 seconds. So within 15 seconds, it decided as out of service. But still your load balancer can able to resolve it. So this time it will not send to server one because server one is out of service. Now what to do? Now again start the service. Sudo service httpd restart. So once I do restart, now check the port. Port is now listen mode. So now check the load balancer in service. It will come as in service. Okay, just wait for some more time. It's still not in service. See now it's in service. It means it checked, load balancer detect that. If you now hit it, it will come as server one and server two. Okay, so load balancer is very important, and in every customer everywhere you are using load balancer. So to understand what is the use of load balancer, why load balancer is used, what is the benefit of load balancer, in this demo my EC2 instance is already in the public subnet. But whenever you are going to do the load balancer setup by demo, try to create the EC2 instance in the private subnet, or else do first verify this way how I did that, then you will get a better understanding. Okay, so load balancer, you need to understand the health check, you need to understand the security group, and you need to understand the listeners. Okay, and after that, what is unhealthy threshold, healthy threshold, and what is the benefit of load balancer. Load balancer benefit is it will send equal amount of traffic to the attached instance, and if any instance goes down by any cases, there will be no customer impact as well, because one of your EC2 instances already up and running. Okay, so this is the benefit of load balancer. And yeah, so you can practice it. If you have any questions, please put into the comments. I will help you out. Thank you for watching.